Welcome to Geo Capitalist, the channel where global strategy meets hard numbers. Today we're diving into a deal worth $325 million that Canada has signed with Germany's Rheinmetall AG. At first glance, it looks like a simple procurement contract, heavy recovery trucks for the Canadian Armed Forces. But trust me, this is about more than trucks. It's about Canada securing Arctic survival, about industrial independence, and about reducing Washington's grip over Canadian defense, and it's a story barely anyone is covering. So what makes this deal so strategic? Why did Canada pick a German company instead of leaning on American contractors? And what does this reveal about NATO's balance of power in the North? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll see how a fleet of trucks uncovers Canada's hidden leverage between Europe and America. And the twist? These 85 vehicles could shift more leverage than any flashy fighter jet program. Quick note before we dive in. Some of the visuals you'll see are simulated, not the actual systems for obvious reasons. With that said, subscribe to the channel and let's dive in. The official name is Enhanced Recovery Capability, or ERC. In late 2024, Canada awarded Rheinmetall Canada a $325 million contract for 85 HX-888 heavy recovery trucks, plus a service package worth $28.9 million. Deliveries will run over 5 years starting in 2027. Now you may wonder, why recovery trucks? They aren't glamorous, they don't dominate headlines, and they don't carry weapons. But they are the backbone of modern armies. Without recovery, tanks and armored vehicles are stranded assets. With recovery, they remain operational in the harshest conditions. Each HX-8X8 comes with a rotating crane, twin winches, and an armored command cabin. They can pull 70-ton Leopard 2 tanks out of ice, mud, or combat zones. For Canada, that means Arctic readiness and NATO interoperability. And here's the first micro hook. This isn't just about mobility, it's about who controls the supply chain. Because Rheinmetall Canada is the prime contractor, with support from Rheinmetall MAN in Germany and Austria, Miller Industries in the US, and Rotzler in Germany. Canada gets the trucks, but it also anchors jobs, expertise, and local integration. That's the hidden play. Ottawa is using German technology to strengthen Canadian industry, while keeping American influence at arm's length. Let's talk hardware. The HX-8X8 recovery vehicle is not a prototype. It's already serving with the UK, Germany, Norway, and Australia. For Canada, the vehicle has been customized, armored cab for crew safety, rotating crane for engine and turret lifts, dual winches that can haul multiple armored vehicles, extreme mobility for snow, ice, and Arctic terrain. Think of it as an insurance policy. A single Leopard 2 tank costs upwards of $10 million. If one breaks down and can't be recovered, that's millions lost. Multiply that across a fleet, and you understand why Ottawa is willing to spend $325 million. But there's another angle: integration. Rheinmetall Canada engineers aren't just assembling trucks. They're embedding Canadian design, software, and maintenance. That means long-term technical expertise stays inside the country. Here's your second micro hook. Every hour of training, every bolt installed in Quebec is one less dependency on US suppliers. And that matters, because in NATO, supply chains equal leverage. Whoever controls maintenance and recovery controls operational tempo. By choosing Rheinmetall, Canada is quietly signaling, we're not locked into US logistics anymore. Few people realize how deeply Rheinmetall Canada is embedded in Ottawa's defense ecosystem. Headquartered in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec, Rheinmetall Canada employs around 400 Canadians in high-tech roles. It already delivers electronic warfare systems to the Navy, supports the Leopard 2 tank fleet, and develops integrated soldier systems for the Army. Its engineers design command and control software, test remote weapon stations, and even work on autonomous robotics for ground support. The new ERC contract cements this role. Unlike buying jets or missiles from the US, which often leaves little domestic footprint, this deal strengthens Canada's industrial base. Jobs stay local, skills accumulate, and Canada becomes a hub for Rheinmetall in North America. That positioning matters. Ottawa now acts as a bridge into Europe's largest defense company. Germany gains a reliable partner across the Atlantic, while Canada builds leverage inside NATO. It also gives Ottawa a stronger voice in procurement debates. If Rheinmetall Canada can deliver, Ottawa can push for future NATO contracts to be fulfilled in Quebec rather than in US factories. Here's the third micro-hook. By awarding Rheinmetall Canada the contract, Ottawa bypassed Buy American pressure. Normally, Washington leans heavily on allies to purchase US equipment. But this time, Europe won, and Canada kept control. That's not just procurement. That's an act of independence. And it sets a precedent. Once Canada demonstrates that European defense integration is viable, it opens the door for more contracts in air defense, robotics, and Arctic surveillance. In other words, this deal is not the end. It's the beginning of a Canadian-European defense corridor. At first glance, $325 million looks modest compared to billion-dollar fighter jet programs. But the economic impact is significant. Local assembly and integration ensures Canadian subcontractors get steady contracts. Shops in Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta will fabricate components, install systems, and maintain fleets. Training and service contracts extend for decades, ensuring long-term employment for technicians and engineers. Exports and NATO access. Once Rheinmetall Canada proves itself, it can bid into NATO's supply chains, turning Quebec into an export hub. Recovery vehicles may not dominate headlines, but they protect assets worth billions. A single Leopard 2 tank costs over $10 million. Without recovery, it can be lost to snow, mud, or mechanical failure. With ERC trucks, it's back in action. Multiply that across fleets and you see billions safeguarded. Economists estimate that every defense dollar multiplies into $1.80 of wider economic activity. That means this $325 million deal could generate nearly $600 million in Canadian output. A quick pause here. Independent analysis like this takes time. If you'd like to fuel fearless videos, support us on Ko-fi, link in the description. Every contribution keeps Geo Capitalist sponsor free. Back to the deal. This isn't about trucks, it's about ecosystems. By anchoring Rheinmetall Canada's role, Ottawa ensures that future NATO contracts, whether drones, cyber, or Arctic radars, can be built in Canada. This is the industrial multiplier at work. One contract today sets up a decade of opportunities tomorrow. Why recovery trucks in 2025? The answer is Arctic survival. Canada sits on the northern frontier with thousands of kilometers of coastline facing the high north. In Arctic operations, vehicles fail more often from nature than combat. Engines freeze, hydraulics crack, wheels sink into permafrost, and snow drifts swallow vehicles whole. Recovery is not optional. It's the difference between a functioning force and stranded assets. The HX-8A8 has already proven itself in Norway, another Arctic NATO state with similar conditions. Canada is essentially importing tested Arctic mobility. For NATO, this strengthens the northern flank, where melting ice is opening new shipping lanes, routes that Russia and China are eyeing. For Ottawa, it's insurance. Its sovereignty won't be undermined by broken logistics. Here's the fourth micro-hook. In the Arctic, logistics are strategy. Whoever recovers fastest controls the battlefield, the outpost, or the sea lane. A single recovery truck can decide whether a unit advances or collapses. And geopolitically, sourcing from Germany rather than the US is symbolic. It tells Washington, Canada doesn't need to rely exclusively on American Arctic solutions. It can draw from European expertise. That's not confrontation, it's diversification. But in strategic terms, diversification is resilience. And resilience is exactly what the Arctic requires. As great power competition shifts north, Canada's ERC trucks will quietly carry as much weight as icebreakers or patrol ships. They won't appear in headlines, but they'll keep the Arctic defense machine turning. So how did the world react? Germany, celebratory. Berlin sees this as proof its defense exports can compete in North America, traditionally America's private market. For Rheinmetall, it's a signal. If you can win in Canada, you can win anywhere in NATO. United States, mixed. On paper, Washington wants allies spending more. But in practice, every European deal is a lost U.S. contract and weaker leverage. The symbolism is sharp. Canada could have gone American. It didn't. That choice resonates in Pentagon corridors. Europe encouraged. This strengthens Germany's standing and shows Ottawa as a transatlantic partner beyond Washington's orbit. For Brussels, it proves Canada is willing to buy European, reinforcing the EU-NATO industrial bridge. China, quietly observant. Every Arctic-ready Canadian capability narrows Beijing's window to exploit northern shipping lanes. China relies on the Arctic's fragility, but Canada's resilience undercuts that. Here's the fifth micro-hook. This isn't a procurement contract. It's a signal to multiple capitals. To Washington, we have options. To Berlin, you're a partner. To Beijing, the Arctic is defended. And signals matter. In geopolitics, contracts ripple outward. Ottawa's $325 million trucks carry messages far heavier than their steel frames. Let's zoom out. What does $325 million really buy? It buys resilience, the ability to recover assets in Arctic conditions. It buys jobs and expertise, Canadian engineers, welders, and coders embedded in a European supply chain. It buys Arctic readiness, tested equipment in Norway adapted for Canada. And most importantly, it buys leverage, a way to play between US and European suppliers. Because defense isn't only about jets or submarines. It's about the hidden backbone, logistics, maintenance, recovery. Without it, even billion-dollar fleets collapse. With it, Canada ensures independence. By choosing Rheinmetall, Ottawa reduced reliance on US chains, deepened ties with Europe, and reinforced its role as a bridge in NATO. Here's the sixth micro-hook. Sometimes the quiet contracts echo loudest. While headlines obsess over fighters, the ERC deal shows where the real leverage lies. For Canada, it's the perfect scale. Large enough to build industry, small enough to avoid controversy. But the ripple effects, new jobs, new expertise, new leverage, will last for decades. So here's the takeaway. The ERC deal may look small, but it's strategic. It strengthens Canada's Arctic readiness, its industrial base, and its independence inside NATO. It shows Ottawa is learning to play the long game, balancing US power with European partnerships. And it proves a point. Influence isn't always built through flashy billion-dollar contracts. Sometimes it's built through the quiet backbone of logistics. That's Geo Capitalist, decoding Canada's $325 million bet with Germany's Rheinmetall, a European defense company. If you found this breakdown valuable, watch our next video. It connects directly to what's unfolding. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us decode these global shifts without compromise. Thank you for watching Geo Capitalist, where numbers reveal strategy. See you in the next video.